Avenue right here in Kampala. My name is Charles Odongso. I'm your moderator, and one of the guests is already here with us. One is on the way, but let me take the pleasure to start with the panel. And right on my left is the Honorable Abdul Katuntu, MP Bugweri County in Busoga. And we are yet to find out, because last week his answer was not very convincing. We are yet to find out whether he will be making a comeback. Honorable, you're most welcome to this week's edition.
Thank you very much, and good evening, dear viewers.
Good. On the extreme left is Mr. Ramadan Gobi. He is a policy analyst and a researcher. Is an economics lecturer at Makerere University Business School, commonly known as MOBS. You're most welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Charles, and I'm glad to be here.
Next to, let me take the opportunity to introduce Honorable Emmanuel Dumbo. He is the spokesperson, is now the Director for Information and Publicity in the NRM Secretariat, and a former MP for Bunyole County in Butaleja District. Honorable Dumbo, it's a pleasure to see you again after a while. And I must also add that when you were in the 9th or 8th Parliament, you were a Commissioner of Parliament. That's a big position in that in that house. You're most welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and good evening, viewers. It's a pleasure for me to be here today.
Good. I should have said that this is your maiden appearance, but I just realized that all of us are actually almost maiden on the show, so it doesn't help much. Our other guest, a person who probably needs no much introduction, but he has been around, not very old, but he has seen so much and discusses a lot. A man who likes green and white, and no doubt he has appeared again in green and white. Chairman Norbert Mao, he has been so many things. MP Gulu Municipality, Chairman of Gulu District Local Government. He is the current President General, I must add, of the Democratic Party. Chairman, you're most welcome to this show.
Thank you, Charles.
Except the chair is not green, but bear with us.
What is this color?
We also don't know, but we are yet to find out.
You've been trying to avoid the other colors.
And welcome back from Nakaseke. You were not in town, you were in the countryside looking for party support. Our topic is, the main topic we are going to be looking at is the future of multi-party politics. And we are asking ourselves whether the current multi-party practice or system is the best to deliver Uganda or to give us a better Uganda. But as we planned for that discussion topic, a bigger story even came up. And so we think that we should touch on the story which is making headlines today. Research World International, I think together with the Great Lakes Institute for Strategic Studies, GLIS, did a study, a survey from about March this year, just at the beginning of COVID, the pandemic. And the result is very interesting. So I need us to start from that. And who better? Polls are usually very, what can I call them? Controversial, if you like. And but it's a way of testing the waters. And in brief, the findings reflect and show that if elections were held in March, that President Museveni, the incumbent, the current president, would still win with 47%, but that would not be a win. We must know from the Constitution, someone to take the victory first time is supposed to get 50% plus one vote in order to be declared the winner. which means from these polls, if they were accurate and if it was like that, that there would be a rerun in this case. So he got 47%, and the poll says that candidate or aspirant currently, aspirant Chagulanyi, would get 22%, and aspirant Kiza Besigye, if he stood, would have got at that time 17%. The rest have not been named. Chairman Mao, I will be coming to you whether, if you are going to stand, whether your candidature would be a stillbirth as far as this poll is concerned. But let me start with Gobi. What did you make of this poll and some of the interesting findings that speak to it?
Thank you. I got the opportunity to, this afternoon, today, being on the panel to discuss the results of this poll. And some of them are very interesting.
Name some of them for our benefit, the benefit of the viewers.
First of all, Ugandans feel that the elections in Uganda, about 26% of the Ugandans, they think that the elections are not free and fair, and therefore they wouldn't consider also the outcome. But just 26%. That means the other bigger majority, because those who were hesitant not to answer that question were only 4%. So the rest were in between of agreeing that they are free and fair. There are also about 80% of Ugandans are willing to participate in the elections, and they are participating at different levels, especially at LC level. Belonging to a political party, it was also, I found it very interesting. About 57% of Ugandans said that they are belonging to a political party.
57?
57%.
57. Only belong to a political party?
Yes. Those who don't belong to a political party were 32%.
At all?
At all. While 9% refused to answer that one. And which party do they belong to was also asked. And out of that 57% that belong to a party, that responded that they belong to a party, NRM had 79%.
Out of the 57?
Out of that 57. 79%, FDC 6%, DP of Chairman Mao 3%, UPC 2%, and the People Power in March was not a party
yet.
But there are 9% who reported that they belong to People Power. And the membership cards, they were not very common amongst those who belong to the party, but those who had them, they got them free of charge, and the big majority of them. It also, I got this result quite interesting, that 99% have never contributed money to any political activity of their party.
Interesting.
99%. And I found that also quite interesting. But you know, as an economist, I was more interested in the answers on the political economy issue.
On the money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What came out?
And quickly, I'll tell you that as far as the economy is concerned, most Ugandans, they are not sure whether their living conditions are good or bad. The majority of them who responded,
they are not sure.
They were not sure whether their own living conditions were good or bad. So they answered it's neither good nor bad.
What did you think about that specific answer?
I really thought that here the people were a bit not honest with their situation. They didn't want to declare the honest answer that we are not well off. You know, in most cases, when you ask questions in a poll, you need to be careful how you ask it.
Yeah.
And it's only about 1% of Ugandans who said life was good. The living conditions were quite good. And when you look at also, as far as the economy is concerned, as a country, at a country level, 44%, again the majority, they were neither, I mean they were not sure whether the economy was doing well or not. Good. Again. And again, 1% felt it was doing very well. So there was a consistent 1% which was coming out on the well-off, those who think that they are well-off and the economy is also good, which could be a sign of also the inequality in the country, that this is an economy of the 1%. For them, they feel they are well off.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Ramadan, for that. Let me introduce also our colleague, Honorable Margaret Muhanga. She is on joining us through Zoom from Fort Portal. Honorable Margaret Muhanga, you're most welcome to this edition of Behind the Headlines. Say hello to us.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, viewers.
Good
evening to the panel.
How is Fort Portal? Kampala is good. How is it?
Fort Portal is good. It's cold. Not very cold. Our winter will begin in October, but it's always cold in the evenings.
Okay, we have started by looking at our main topic is future of multi-party politics in Uganda. But we started by looking at the opinion poll that the Research World International and GLIS just released today, and bringing out interesting revelations. So just keep with us, and I'm going to come to you after this gentleman in the studio here. Before I go to our guests, Honorable Katuntu, you have interacted with our people in the countryside for long, as a politician, as a community leader in Busoga and in all these places around the country. Why would people, in your view, fear to reveal the reality that that they are facing, you know, as far as welfare or even their political perceptions are concerned today, when we have multi-party system?
Well, it's about the civic competence of our society generally, and how do people value opinion poll. For example, in a typical Uganda society, why would anybody want to disclose his income, for example, how he lives, for example? So it is really very risky on anybody to base his finding because of a result of an opinion poll in Uganda or in the third world. There are questions where you will not get a honest answer, and one of them is the economics of people. So it will not be very accurate, in my view. The economists, like my brother Ramadan here, give it a minus or
plus 2,
plus
sometimes 3.
But in an African setting, it is certainly far bigger.
You want to suggest 10 margin of error?
10 margin of error. Take, for example, if you went and asked somebody, who are you going to vote for? Maybe 50% will give you who they will vote for now, but 50% will not give you the person they will eventually vote for. And in politics, one day is too long. For example, these polls were done in March. This is
we're now in August.
5 months later.
Yeah.
How can they be accurate? So many things have since then changed. This COVID crisis challenge has really changed the political landscape of this country. Because of poverty levels, people are very much frustrated with the status quo and so on. And in many cases, economics determines the way people also vote. So it's not very exciting on my part to look at the figures my brother Ramadan is giving out and so on. I don't really have that faith that they represent the correct political landscape of the country as it is now. For example, I'll give, in March, I was a member of FDC. I am not.
Today.
Today, 5 months later. And many others. So really, I don't know whether we are doing a post-mortem or we are really trying to look at the political landscape in this country as it is now.
Okay. Honorable Margaret. Honorable Margaret. Can I get you with us?
Loud and clear.
You have listened to Ramadan and your colleague, Honorable Katuntu, on the on these polls. What do you make of it? The NRM, your party, is, according to the polls, not winning, even if it is winning. What would you make of that? 47%, it wouldn't be declared the victor. It would have to go to a rerun, which, by the way, fundamentally to note in that result would mean that if, and hypothetically from that result, that if there was a unity of a coalition of the other parties other than NRM, then they would win. That is what the polls are showing. What do you make of that?
I think in every research, there is always a margin of error.
True.
And I'm sure you will realize that 47% wouldn't be really very bad. Because if we calculated the margin of error at about 7% lowest, that means that the NRM would win by about 54%. Remember,
but you know the problem with
March.
Honorable Margaret, but the problem with that calculation is that the margin of error is plus or minus. You have only done the plus. There is a possibility it would have been minus.
Okay, let me believe that there is that minus. But most of these opinion polls are done in urban areas. Let me think that most of the respondents were brought from Kampala.
No.
Or maybe Wakiso.
69 were
or the environs.
69%.
Kampala.
The fact is that the polls showed that 69% were polled from the rural areas of Uganda.
Which rural areas, for example?
Toro.
No way. Here we get 99%. So because they were not in Toro, they were not done in Kapchorwa, they were not done in Karamoja, so I put the margin of error on the other upper side, not on the lower side. And I can imagine, I had a debate with somebody today who actually told me Museveni will win by over 75%. I insisted it will not be possible. With all the odds, even if there is a lockdown, it locks down everybody. Neither him nor his opponents will be able to get out and speak to as many people as they would have loved. Nonetheless, I put it at about 70%. In between 65% to 70%. Because there are so many things that have changed. Lockdown or no lockdown, a lot of things have changed. A few people believe social media influences the thinking of Ugandans. I believe it doesn't. There are only about 4% of the Ugandans on social media. I look at most of the charts here in Fort Portal alone, where there is an urban area, where they are elite, even in villages. Every chat group does not have more than 400 people. That shows me that out of the population of about 300,000 people, only maybe 1% is on social media.
Okay. Good. Let me come to our guests now. Thanks, Margaret. Hold it there. Chairman Mao, two things I want you to come on top of what you want to make of these polls. One is about 53%, according to the polls, in areas of Lango. First, that the biggest number of or percentage of respondents who are optimistic of Uganda are coming from northern Uganda areas of Lango, Acholi, and I think I didn't get the third one, but Lango and Acholi featured, and up to almost 53% of that, of the polled. And then the three leading candidates are by far ahead of others, including Chairman Mao, who is a President General of the oldest multi-party in Uganda. What does that tell you about your capacity, but also about these people that have been polled in parts of northern Uganda, which are just coming out of years of rebellion?
Thank you, Charles. Opinion polls are like a snapshot. They're like a photograph. And obviously, if you took a photo of Kampala in 1962, then you took another photo in 1980, another one in 86, then you took another one last week. They tell a story. So in analyzing opinion polls, you go behind the results to look at the tools they use. And these are what they call quantitative surveys. In other words, they get a typical sample of a population, and then they put to them certain questions.
Yeah.
The kind of questions and the way the questions are designed can even have inbuilt bias. In law, we have the famous question, when did you stop beating your wife? How do you answer that kind of question?
I have never.
No, the question is, when did you stop? So I'm already biased. I believe that you are a wife beater, so you have just stopped. Therefore, in terms of that time, the polls could be said to be accurate, subject to certain errors. Now, concerning the regional responses, the people in the north, as you know, feel like the Uganda government or Uganda is their stepmother. Now, if you are a stepchild, even if you are given cold food, you'll jump around and celebrate. Stepchildren generally are more optimistic because they don't have a lot of expectation. There are those who are sulking, of course, those who feel entitled that this is their government, they fought, the reason why the NRM went to the bush was because of them and to defeat the northerners who were terrorizing them. So the poll itself should be read as a snapshot of a polarized society. You have to know that for 20 years, northern Uganda was in war. You have to know that war in northern Uganda and even the war in Luwero was driven by an anti-North sentiment. We have to get rid of these northerners, the Acholis. So that stigmatization, the heaping of collective guilt on a community, and then a turn of events, the closure of the IDP camps, the peace talks in Juba, some of the government programs like the PRDP, NUSAF, despite their weaknesses, they have given the people a sense that, well, there is an opportunity they can take advantage of. So while others are grumbling about political power, I think most of the people in the area that was affected by war are looking at what they can make of what is available. And as you notice, the people in the north have put the war behind them very fast. They have not forgotten, and they still believe that the government issued a bounced check to them. But that notwithstanding, I think generally the optimism is based on where they are coming from. So it is not something to be understood as like support to NRM or support to the person of Yoweri Museveni. It should be considered as contextual. Also in terms of the choices available in the political menu. So you look at the choices and you ask yourself, what is your stake as a community? What is your interest? So the north and east feel like they live in the boys' quarters of Uganda. So if there's a quarrel in the main house, you say, well, I hope they don't come here to fight. They say, what are they fighting about? They are fighting about whether to subscribe to premium, DSTV, or compact. And they say, well, we don't even have a TV. So really, what we hope is that we can have a radio. So you have got to understand that. And I speak this with utmost good faith, because those are the issues underlying the problems in Uganda. It is not about who sleeps in State House, whose portrait is in government offices, who is even president. We must look at a stakeholder democracy. So if the North is saying, well, they are fighting over which package to subscribe to, they say, well,
that is luxury.
The luxury. They say this is luxury.
Okay.
Others are appreciating hoes. Here people are sulking about when they talk arcades, open arcades. They say, well, we don't even know what you are talking about. Okay. We wish you would give us better seeds. So while we are complaining about Operation Wealth Creation giving us rotten seeds, supplying bogus cassava stems and so on, others are quarreling about who is getting the contract to build Entebbe Expressway, who is getting government land on the hills of Kampala. So that context is very important to understand. And I think northern Uganda has decided that they are going to think long term.
Okay.
And that also should explain the response.
Okay, good. Let me also now, the best time to bring in the man who now speaks for the NRM party that is still in charge. Pick it from where Chairman Mao has left it, that parts of this country are not even thinking of fighting about power, because that to them is almost luxury. They are still thinking of the basics of life. They are fighting for, you know, food, fighting for where is a shirt that I can wear, where is the shelter on me. But also, are you happy about the 47%? Would you knock your chest and say, yes, we won from these polls?
Well, I thank you very much, and I want to thank my colleague Honorable Mao for his submission. You know, Honorable Mao has been a presidential candidate in Uganda before.
2011, to be precise.
And the pollsters didn't even believe that he would be a candidate. So really, when you look at the pollsters, they just don't know that whether Honorable Mao will ever be a candidate, or at that time,
maybe he had not yet.
Even when he was, at that time, he was the president of a Democratic Party.
Like now.
Like now. And it's a party which is going to vie for power. So, I wouldn't want to know that, or to believe that it could be the people who are ignorant. But to us, the outcome of these statistics, or the poll, resonates well with exactly what NRM has been telling the people of Uganda. When you look at northern Uganda, and you see how many leaders are defecting from the opposition and coming into the ruling party, it resonates well with the statistics that has come out in the poll. When you look at where I will agree with Honorable Mao, is that the people of northern Uganda, when I was still in parliament, at one time we attempted to move a motion that the northern Uganda could be declared
an emergency area.
An emergency area, state of disaster. And at that time, when we visited northern Uganda, really, the children who had grown up were in the IDPs. And the political leaders in northern Uganda at that time would take this as an advantage to create mayhem and always portray the government as if that is what the government wanted to do. When the government took a proactive turn, one, to negotiate with the coin, but also make a decisive end to the war and ensure that the people go back to their lands and become productive. Right now, the people of northern Uganda are hurrying to take the benefits of what the other people are perhaps maybe getting tired of. They're saying, if you think NRM are getting tired of you people in Kampala, for us in northern Uganda, we're just beginning to see the benefits. So this statistics is actually very good for us, and it confirms what NRM has always told the people. But when you look at the outcome, the 47%, even if you added the opposition, what statistics do they give Messenger?
17.
And Chagulanyi?
22.
When you add, what do you get?
No, but you don't add it like that. I thought you are the gentleman who was discussing the figures. But I thought that being a ruling party, you take the 47 that was allocated to you in the poll, and the others are assumed to be against you, isn't it? The academician can tell us.
Except that 11% of others were not
committal.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We are not voting any candidate.
So when you look at that,
but maybe we can even look at that, Honorable Dumbo. Following from what you just said, you said this is good for us. Two things. One, if there are 11% who are non-committal, and yet you are in government, you are the guarantor of peace and safety of all of us. Okay? Why would 11% fear to mention that we support the government in power? But two, do you realize that the same pollster, Research World International, the last poll before this one, they had given the same party 60%, and therefore, according to the two polls, that you actually went down. Do you realize that? And is that what you can chest thump about?
You may want to find out why the statistics is coming out now. You see, these are Ugandans. And you don't think that the people who conducted the poll themselves don't have a side. And whenever polls are conducted, at times the results are released because they want to achieve an objective. Those are things that we can rule out. We can't rule out. I will not say with a certainty that this is where they belong, but I want to tell you that every Ugandan, even the one who conducted the poll, has a political side. I don't go
except I would argue, if I'm looking at it critically, I would argue that if you take the 47% like you did and accept that it was okay and therefore good for your party, then you should take the others as well, the other variables as well, isn't it?
I will take all those variables, but I'm looking at the basics. And like Honorable was saying, that when you look at statistics, it's basically a snapshot.
Yeah, true.
To us, putting Museveni in the lead at 47% is very good enough
to start from.
And
then you build on.
And secondly, given that our party president has already returned the nomination forms for the internal elections, to us, when this statistics came out and we read it, we started strengthening on how we must attack the ground using the current statistics, and also looking at areas we must improve. Okay. I want to tell you, if you look at the statistics, the northern Uganda, perhaps I shouldn't be saying this, because this should have been an internal party strategy, that when you see the yearning of the people of Uganda coming to the NRM, and I want to tell you that there is a big harvest that we are going to announce from amongst the leaders, but that is not for today. Let it happen and we shall come and tell you.
Using a sickle or a combined harvester?
It will be a combined harvester, the type of harvest that we're going to have. When you look at what is happening in northern Uganda, for us as a party, already have determined which areas and which message are we going to go with in order to strengthen and consolidate. But this just tells you that President Museveni and the NRM will be home and dry. And even when you look at what is happening in the other parties, you just can't run away from that the parties are disorganized. They have not provided the hope that the people of Uganda would have wished to. And the only person who can provide that hope is the NRM. But also looking at the time, that was in March. When you look at how NRM has performed in this period, especially President Museveni, in protecting the people of Uganda against COVID, how he has consistently provided the message of hope. If you did that poll to the same people now, you'd be surprised with the outcome.
Will be different, positively for you.
Absolutely, yes.
We need to go for a break. Chairman Mao, do you want to respond to that? He has said they're going to use that in just 1 minute.
The harvest he's talking about is...
your members are targeted for serious harvesting.
Well, when people are defecting, you must look at the push and pull factors. So I don't think it is so much attributed to the pull factor in the NRM, but rather to the push factors to where they belong. I think that is in Uganda, that's the key factor in defections, because where they are going, they are the same problems also, because these are problems of weak institutions. And lastly, the optimism is not so much about NRM or even about the person of President Museveni. I think the optimism is more like opportunity to get on with a better life. That is the optimism.
But is that also opportunity presented by the sitting government or the sitting establishment?
You notice that
NRM.
Okay.
Can you deny them that?
I will give them. I cut them some flack. That's okay. But the key is in that greater north. Actually, when we are thinking of greater north, we even count Busoga. Yes.
Is that so? Is it because...
And Bunyoro.
And Bunyoro.
No, I
think it came
I'm speaking on good authority of Professor Mahmoud Mamdani, yes, as a political scientist. He talks of the political north. That is any space east of the Nile. That is what he calls the political north. But you notice that northern Uganda has been the most amenable to embracing opportunity to improve.
Okay.
Why would the Right Honorable Amama Mbabazi get the highest percentage of votes from Gulu of all places?
Because you campaigned for him.
Not only that,
TDA.
not only that, the people in northern Uganda are not satisfied with the status quo. To interpret the polls to mean they are satisfied with the status quo would also be a mistake, and it would mislead the NRM. But rather, it is more like, where is the opportunity to improve? Why, for instance, would in 2001, 2006, northern Uganda vote for a retired national political commissar of NRM, vote for a colonel in NRA, with the army which bombed them and generally massacred people? Because people always say, okay, if there's even a small chance that this could be better, we may not know whether it is better, but there's a chance that it could be better. So I think the people there are more willing to take risks. And I would even tell Honorable Dumbo to console him that perhaps many of them, those who are joining the NRM, maybe they feel that, look, in the circumstances, maybe you put your stake there, and they don't feel like they are eternally wedded to anything. Again, because the center of gravity of the Ugandan politics is in the Bantu South, the Nilotic North. You know, the President Museveni always talks about the Bantuphone and Nilophone. Ugandan politics, the language is Bantuphone. So the Nilophones know that they have the capacity to tilt. Who gets power? And if you have the capacity to tilt, that in itself is a very important factor. So you end up with a bigger bargaining power. Because if you have 4%, and somebody is going to the polls with 47%, or even 39%, Now, if you can close that gap, you are in a better position to bargain. And I think the polarization of Uganda is going to force upon Uganda politics of dynamic negotiations.
Okay, good. We need to take a break. Interesting insights there into the polls. But once it is, once we come back to, we will definitely one time come back to discuss it in its entirety. But we are going for a break, and just to alert you that we have an opinion poll you can be commenting on. The question is, with the ongoing crisscrossing of politicians across parties, do you think the multi-party system still has room in Uganda? With the ongoing crisscrossing of politicians, do you think the multi-party system still has room in Uganda? And if you like, you can even tell us the current practice of multi-party politics in Uganda. Do you think that it is the best approach that can deliver Uganda, you know, to a better stage? Let's go for a break right now. But this is Behind the Headlines on UBC, and we have Chairman Norbert Mao, the DP President General, together with Honorable Emmanuel Dumbo, who is the Director for Information and Publicity in the NRM. And we have a discussion on the future of multi-party politics in Uganda. The panelists, Honorable Abdu Katuntu, Bugweri County MP, together with Ramadan Gobi, MUB's economics lecturer, and joining us on Zoom all the way from Fort Poto is Honorable Margaret Muhanga, and we are all here. Let's go for that break, and we will be right back shortly.
You are our winner tonight! Uganda come together, and we win it together. Hey! Me and you, you and me, Momonyabo. You and I and you, Momonyabo. When you win, I win also. When you dance, I dance also. Uncle Sambela Petres in it. Mami now, what do you want to hear? Together, I see we are winning. Me and we.
Ono ye Momonyabo together. Kozesa by MTN app oba nyiga star emomokaga 5 hash okugula airtime oba bundles wefunira omukiso kwewangulira omudidi gw'ensimbi eziwulira ddala obukadde 5 buli lunaku nga zizo n'abaagalwa abo. Tosubwa akazannyo ka Momonyabo ku ssaawa 2 n'eddakiika 2 ez'akawungeezi okuva ku Mande okutuusa ku Lwokutaano.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Welcome back from the break. This is Behind the Headlines. Just for you to know that we are coming to you live, broadcasting to you from the broadcasting house on Nile Avenue here in Kampala. But you can pick us streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube via UBC TV on Facebook, and at UBC Uganda on Twitter, and then on UBC Television Uganda on YouTube, We are also broadcasting live on Star TV, Facebook, and Star TV Uganda official YouTube, or on all those platforms, and a number of others that you will be seeing on the scroll of your television station. You can pick us from wherever you are and participate in the discussion that is going on. Our main topic now that we are entering into is the future of multi-party politics in Uganda. And like I told you, our guest this evening, we have the chairman, the President General of the Democratic Party, Chairman Mao. If you're just joining us, Chairman Mao is with us. We, together with Honorable Emmanuel Dumbo, who is the Director of, in charge of communication, really, for information and publicity in the NRM. And then the panel on this show, the Honorable Abdu Katuntu, MP Bugweri, and Mr. Ramadan Gobi, and joining us on Zoom all the way from the city of beauty, as the green shows in Toro. In Fort Portal, joining us is Honorable Margaret Muhanga, who is also a panelist. Briefly, a very brief context for the discussion we are going into is, of course, the coming elections. But I got a literature, and Chairman Mao had participated in that survey in 2007. It was done by Accord, and it was titled "The Functioning of a Multi-Party System in Local Governments, a Policy Briefing Paper." And it talked about the challenges of transition from the movement system in Uganda. Now, a small snapshot of some of the findings to bring us to light. One of the issues that was researched on was the transition from from the movement one-party system in 2000 and which ended by 2005, I think in July, thereabout. And of course transitioning into a multi-party system. But the findings, one of the findings was that the character and quality of debate was wanting, and that this is now under the multi-party system. And that the opposition, it said that one of the findings was that the opposition is young, or was young, fragile and weak, and that it lacked a strong base at the grassroots level. Another finding was that local people, some of the local people, even when they had a deeper understanding of what multi-party politics is, many of them did not know that they were supposed to hold, they had the duty or the right to hold the government accountable, even at the local level. Today, we are looking at what is now going on. We have talked about the crisscrossing, and of course, we are also coming from a background where in 2016, I think Chairman Mao is the one who likes referring to that, President Museveni said, by the next election, the opposition will have been degraded, to rephrase something like that. Chairman Mao, I want to start with you on this as our guest and a president of a party. Do you think that right now, heading into another election, the opposition is stronger together, or do you think that you have been degraded to a point where you cannot put up a formidable or successful fight against the incumbency?
Charles, we must pose the question, what is the opposition? In simple terms, the opposition is the group that believes that the NRM has outlived its usefulness, has exceeded its welcome, and that we need another president. That in itself has a historical context. Uganda has never had peaceful change of government. And that is still something which the NRM owes Ugandans. I think many Ugandans would even wish that what is happening in Tanzania could also happen in Uganda. Because if you can't even have change within your own political organization, then is there hope that you can chaperone that change in the wider society? Obviously, President Museveni knows that he cannot finish the opposition. If there can be opposition in heaven, why do you think on earth here you can finish opposition? It is that is too ambitious, even for a man like him. Secondly, in judging the political parties, especially the historical political parties like UPC and DP, you have got to know that every storm, every fire, every rain, every hailstorm has hit these political parties directly. And you have to know that during the 20 years when we were under the movement system, the real victims of the movement system were UPC, CP, and DP. Those were the real victims. So sometimes I see...
How were they the real? Why do you categorize them as the real victims?
I start with the restrictions that came with the NRM, NRA. Basically, parties were packed at their headquarters. It was not allowed to renew leadership because you could not hold delegates conferences. You could not open branches. So how can you have a party, even if you have a jet, if you are allowed to park, you have no wheels, you can start your engine, but you can't fly. In about 20 years, you will have junk. So Ugandans should really appreciate the resilience these historical anti-colonial parties have shown. And I see naive people ignorantly attacking these historical parties, not knowing that, you know, it is like if you have your old father who has paid your fees, his back is bent because he has been digging from 6 up to evening to pay your school fees. His hands are not as smooth as yours, but you have only been tapping. The greatest labor you do is tapping computer keyboard and opening books. So if you say, my father has a wrinkled face, his back is bent, and he doesn't walk straight, he limps, that would be a sign of lack of appreciation and also ignorance of the context of how that father became to look like that. Article 269 is one other thing. When the Constitution was made in 1995, severe restrictions were imposed on political parties. And those went on for 10 years. It is actually DP that went to court and fought the legal battles up to the Supreme Court to ensure that we have multiple political parties. Therefore, we celebrate the fact that people are registering political parties. Now, as to the maturity of the parties that want change, it should be looked at in terms of what their objective is. Right now, as long as the pro-change people, as long as their goal is merely office seeking, that will not have a lot of impact, because there's a difference between the struggle and then careerism. If all I want is to be president of Uganda and I'm not articulating what change means to the ordinary Ugandan, to say, when we are elected and you are building, in 2 weeks you will have your building plan approved. When you want to get a land title, in less than 2 months you will have your land title. When you go to an LC1 for a stamp and signature, they are not going to extort money. When a road is being built, there will be a meeting to discuss. What you need a state that serves.
Okay.
Now, it looks like the NRM actually is running a very, 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 I would say, a campaign full of intrigue. You know,
against who?
Against the opposition. You know, one time I heard President Museveni.
How so?
It is about the language and communication they use. He was saying, look, you are accusing my people of being thieves and corrupt. But you should know that when this opposition come, by the time they have eaten their fill, you will actually have nothing, you the population. Now that kind of intrigue in a campaign, we have to take note of it. So it requires that we present people of character. The other thing that they use is to associate us with chaos.
Which is one of the things I want to...
They keep hammering that, and they say, you look, if you want stability, vote for us. If you don't mind about stability, look at them. You had even Emmanuel Dumbo. I know Emmanuel Dumbo. He was my successor as guild president, and I campaigned for him to win. Yes, because he was on the correct side. Does he use intrigue these days? The language he used, he says, look at the confusion, you know.
That is Dumbo.
In other words, that is their major campaign. To say, look, they can't even manage their own houses. Keep them away from our resources.
Which is why Dumbo should come in at this point. Honorable Dumbo.
But the opposition won't die.
The opposition will not die.
It will be standing long after President Museveni has gone.
Good. Honorable Dumbo, pick it from there. Are you painting the opposition as the bad guys, the other side, and therefore don't give them any room, don't even listen to them, and in order to crumble them completely? Or do you look at them as befitting opponents in politics who actually are, what do they call them? The guys in waiting, the leaders in waiting that deserve a good competition.
Waiting for what?
To take over from you.
There he goes.
Honorable Katuntu told you here that in March he was FDC. 5 months later he isn't. Was it NRM saying that? So he's just he came here to confess on the show.
But which is a fundamental question on this topic, because Honorable Katuntu has not yet told us. Probably he's going to stand again on independent ticket or any other, and if he wins, that would mean he is strong as an independent person and a personality, on individual merit, not as a party, which is one of the things that we need to touch here.
Perhaps, just 1 second.
Perhaps
to prompt you.
Yes.
Honorable Nambeshe was NRM in March.
Last week.
Up to last week. Today he's not.
And Honorable Shabe. Honorable Shabe as well.
First and foremost, I want to tell you that political parties exist for a purpose.
To capture power.
If they choose that to be the purpose, then it can be. When you look at the historical political parties when they were formed, capturing power was subsequent, but the objective at that time was to fight to liberate the country from colonialism. And their message, they structured their message to the people that we have been exploited by the colonialists, and if you trust us with power, we shall do this which the colonialists haven't been doing. In the people's mind, they had expectation that where the whites or the colonialists had exploited Ugandans, these ones were going to do better. Where some parties came on the platform because they had been marginalized. Could be as Anglicans, perhaps, who have been marginalized, or as Muslims who have been marginalized. And through this vehicle, we are going to create stability and balance so that there is equitable distribution or participation in governance. Those parties had a purpose, and that purpose is called ideology. The ideological orientation of a party, the reason why you exist. The challenges of political parties, listen to the current political leaders of various political groups. Somebody defines his purpose as, we are coming to remove Museveni. Time will come when President Museveni will not be there. So, will the people of Uganda be okay because President Museveni is not there?
Americans coined something, the change we want. So, what if their purpose is just change?
So then they should say that, but then the people down whom they are trying to use in order to deliver that change, their perception may be different. So most of the political parties, and the challenges they will continue having, is defining their reason why they exist. When you see the challenges in the various parties, look at the FDC, where my friend is running from. I was in Parliament.
You are really rubbing it in.
Where my friend is running from, I was in Parliament. And Honorable Katuntu knows our level of engagement and how we really participated in governance, how we structured, how we struggled to improve what is happening now. Look at the leader of the Professor Ogenga Latigo. At the time he was the leader for the opposition, he did not have a lady car. He did not have the security that which the current leader of the opposition has. But in order to portray the leader of the opposition and in order to take multipartyism into the root of Uganda, we had to create an impression so that people can respect multipartyism. And Onayamnandala Mafabi, when he became leader of the opposition, he got a lady car. We enhanced his budget in Parliament. Even the ministers of the shadow ministers are facilitated and paid money by government, which is unprecedented in many democracies. I've been in many countries. What is happening in Uganda isn't happening. And when they go down, they don't tell the people that this is happening actually in Uganda. But unfortunately, instead of portraying themselves as a party in waiting or a government in waiting, they have progressively demonstrated that they are not prepared, they are not ready, and the only thing they can tell the people is that President Museveni must go either peacefully or violently, through demonstration or through elections. And that created a very fundamental problem which has created a rift. So, to us in Uganda, the parties must, as a matter of urgency, define what they are living for.
Okay.
2, when they have done that, they must practice internally what they wish Ugandans to practice, so that before they come to demonstrate it to the Ugandans, as in government, they should have demonstrated it internally in their respective parties in order people to believe them. But as long as they continue doing this internally, they fight amongst themselves, they ridicule, they undermine each other, they don't respect fellow human beings, then NRM will progressively be the alternative, and people will strongly believe that it's only NRM that can deliver them to where they want to be.
Good. Honorable Katuntu, proceed from there. And either engage reverse gear on the same argument or just to number 6 now from 5.
Well,
what don't you agree with him on, or do you reject all that he has just stated?
Well, I have never known Dumbo to be that arrogant. This is the first time I'm hearing him speak like that.
He's the chairperson. No, I mean, he's the director of information
and I have
of the ruling party.
I've known him for many years.
I don't know what statement he's referring to.
Me and Dumbo, first of all, right from school. And we also participated together in Gidi politics. Whatever he has said about what's going on in the opposition parties, actually it is also going on in the NRM. If he's talking about arrogance, he's talking about confusion, he's talking about impunity, he's talking about lack of transparency, he's talking literally every challenge the DP is facing, NRM is facing. Actually, even on a bigger proportion. So I really don't know whether he was talking about general political parties or he was talking about opposition parties. What is it that is happening in DP which is not happening in the NRM? I don't see anything, any challenge in FDC which is not happening in the NRM. So my only view is that when we are fighting for the return of multi-party politics, and it is not only DP really, Honorable Mao, UPC participated so much. Remember the James Rwanyarale cases, the Badru Wegulo cases, and so on. So it was a joint fight by the by then the major opposition parties, which was DP and UPC, which fought the return of multipartyism in this country, including the court battles to challenge the status quo and the legal regime that was suffocating political parties at that time. We didn't know, or I did not know, that we were fighting for parties which lack a transparency. We didn't know that. It's not the parties we thought they would be. That you've got leaders who really treat political parties like army barracks. That, you know, you are supposed to do this, and if you don't do this, then you are either with us or you are not. So the parties must make themselves more attractive to the population, to the younger people. As long as the parties behave like they are behaving, and it doesn't matter whether it is NRM, it doesn't matter whether it's DP, it doesn't matter whether it is UPC, they are going to have these challenges. Because the younger people really are not those you easily suffocate and put them like a military parade. Say, Geuka, Bautan. No, please. 2, leaders who go there don't want to leave. And they will manipulate the rules of the political institution for them to stay. And all this we are having in all political parties. That's why you find now some dissatisfaction within all political parties by members. That's why it is not about FDC like he was talking about, where leaders are leaving. Even NRM leaders are leaving. DP leaders are leaving. UPC, it is the same. Unless the parties have an internal outlook. Say, look, we have these challenges, and you must gather the guts, the courage to address those shortcomings. You will have these problems. Lastly, Charles, you see, I don't subscribe to this theory that the government should be able to massage the opposition to take them over. I mean, how can you expect that? Nobody. The government actually wants to do exactly that, to make sure that they weaken you. You don't get any flow. Secondly, even the NRM should not expect to have, you know, Christmas cards from Norbert Mao. Norbert Mao's ambition is actually to destroy the movement. He wakes up every day in his whole life to make sure that the movement is no more, including to dress like he is dressed today. Put on that DP color to scare your yellow color out of State House literally every day. That's your job. He wants to get into power. You want to remain into power. So what we demand of them is decency in competition. That is the only thing which the population demands them, to have specific programs. There is nothing to be proud of if you're NRM and they said that you now 47%. Knowing very well if you're talking about 100%, 53?
Yeah.
Are not very comfortable to say they are with you and they want your programs to continue. There's nothing to be proud about, my brother, Honorable Dumbo. Especially at the time when we all know that the NRM at one point, it could have been 80%. Look at the history of the NRM. It was a taboo for me and Mao to say that the NRM is headed to a wrong direction in this town. It was a purely taboo. Today,
1996, 76%.
Let me tell you, there are things.
2001,
there are things
69%.
Oh, yes. There are things we would never even have said publicly. Me and Mao would just whisper to each other because we would fear to say them publicly. The entire public was actually with the NRM, 80% or so. So today you are talking about 47%, and you seem to be even very proud with the 47%. Quite interesting.
Okay. Honorable Margaret is on Zoom, but My producer tells me there are interesting discussions going on online. Before I bring Ramadan together with the Honorable Margaret, let's get the comments that are coming through on the discussion going on. Let's get the comments on the screen so that someone is saying Okongo Moses says, yes, multi-party system is still working because these crossings are from one party to another party. Okay, good point there, Okongo. So no change. Someone called David Opondo through Facebook says nothing like multi-party. In fact, they are just showing how greedy they are for power. Okay? There is, as you all can see, they are making more parties. What does that tell UBC behind the headlines? People are still interested in multi-party politics. They think it's democracy. Okay. That person did not tell us their name. Then there is, through Twitter, there is Waswa Frank. He says, I think the multi-party system still has room because it gives Ugandans, in bracket politicians, room to associate with those parties they believe match their aspirations and are bound to lead them to their goals. That's a nice one, talking about aspirations. Ramadan, you need to take care of that. Then the last one for now, Okema256 says, yeah, sure, multi-party system has room to prosper, I think, because the crisscrossing itself is the practical right of an individual. Now, Ramadan, someone mentioned aspirations, and then you have followed the other comments as well. Realistically, do multi-parties, do they hold the aspirations and carry the genuine aspirations? You know, you are the man who talks about political economy. If my grandmother in Nebi looked at a political party, would she look at it as this vehicle that delivers food to her table, that delivers security, that delivers welfare, that delivers, you know, health, that delivers education, good quality education, roads? Is it the multi-party system or the multi-party as that vehicle? Would that ordinary person or your grandmother in Butambala look at a multi-party, or in this case DP, FDC, or NRM as that vehicle, in your view?
Thank you, Charles. It's good you asked that question, because I was going to ask you a question for the first time, because you over-ask us questions.
You better withdraw it, because I'm not supposed to be asking.
Maybe let me ask it.
Yeah.
Ramadan is a teacher.
Yes.
So it's the code of asking questions.
You know, professors are taught to ask you questions, not to answer them. But I want you to first answer this quickly.
Yeah.
If multi-party politics is the answer, what was the question?
If multi-party politics was the answer
for Uganda,
what was the question?
Yes.
How do we democratize? How do we associate? How do we coalesce together as parties? That was the question.
Absolutely. You are struggling a lot. Let me help you.
Go for it.
You know, I love to have conversations based on facts and figures and research. I've been listening to the politicians very attentively, and I realize that so often we are discussing things which are not communicating to the realities of Uganda. In the facts and the figures, a typical Ugandan, one who will represent the majority of Ugandans, to whom we want to have multi-party political system work to serve their interests, is number one, rural. He lives in a rural setting. A typical Ugandan is either uneducated or having very little education. A typical Ugandan is youth
today
and female. A typical Ugandan is relatively poor and dependent because he's young, female, and rural and uneducated. And the typical Ugandan also keeps his little money in a secret place at home. And he also borrows from a relative or a friend. Now, in most cases, when I hear people discussing Uganda and what is failing to work and what is working, I wonder whether they are discussing the Uganda I know in that type of statistics which I've described. To me, I think actually multi-party politics cannot work for such a typical Ugandan. Because the tenets of multi-party politics is that you need to be in a position where you can, first of all, belong to this party to which you are subscribing and to which party is serving your interests. You are a member who's carrying a card that you paid for, and you also support the activities of the party so that it can grow into an institution which can win power and resources and serve your interests. I don't see that in any of the political parties in Uganda. And perhaps that's why the one which ends up in power is always the place where most Ugandans are running to go and reside, you know, get cover there. Because at least it will have access to the state apparatus, which will bring resources, which will bring security, which will bring the bragging rights, and so many other goodies which comes with the, you know, having being the one in power. And I think this is why you find that even in these polls, 79% of the people are telling you they subscribe to the NRM party, but when you ask them to declare the candidate they are going to vote, only 43% vote for their chairperson of the party.
And when you ask them if they have ever contributed anything to a
party,
majority
zero.
have not.
Yes. I really think that multi-party political system is a misfit for a society like ours. And I think we lost a very big deal of opportunity to use the broad-based governance system which had been built on individual merit to create one thing, to create a Uganda with a different economic system or structure which is transformed in order to give people that power now and the authority and ability to now belong to political party for a purpose.
Okay.
And I think that's what, to me,
would be a better vehicle.
Would be a better vehicle than what we have.
I need to bring in Honorable Muhanga, who is holding on and listening attentively to the discussion. Honorable, you belong to the NRM party. And in Parliament, actually, I'm not sure whether you still speak for the caucus. At one time, you were speaking for the caucus. This description of a political system that would deliver, let me call it socio-economic change to the ordinary Ugandan, and that it is not a multi-party system. What do you think about that? And do you think that NRM as a party fits into the description, the kind that Gobi gave us?
Yes, Charles, I'm still the publicity secretary of the NRM Parliamentary Caucus.
Good.
And I would like really to agree with Ramadan that at one point Ugandans were very safe under the movement system. With the immaturity of our political parties, I think we moved faster than we walked before we could crawl. You see, it's very fashionable in the world today for people to belong to political parties and also countries to follow that democratic path that describes countries as democratic only when they are following multi-party politics. Having said that, I would like to echo words of so many people who were not interested in joining the multi-party system in 2005. They felt like that our countries were too young to go to the fights of political parties of the 1960s. However, I remember President Museveni, who advocated for the moving from the movement as an umbrella that hosted everybody, the glue that kept all Ugandans together, that we should now disintegrate. He actually used the metaphor that every goat should be on its own stand. And indeed, people moved. But you see now, because people didn't know where exactly they were moving or why they were moving, they immediately started crisscrossing. It's not started today, but a lot of people who were believed to be, let me say, opposition that time, started moving to different directions. I remember the first exodus from the NRM before we joined the multi-party was 2003. The exodus of the Honorable Miriam Matembe, the Honorable Kazora, the Honorable Eria Kategaya, the late, and many others during the 7th Parliament. A lot of people moved to what we can call the opposition. Now, there came multi-party politics in 2005, and people took flags and went to parties. People came to the 6th Parliament as FDC. By the end of that Parliament, they had already changed color. If you remember Agnes Akiror, I think that's her name, she's Minister of State for something. She changed and then failed to make it to the 8th Parliament, and she was an ex-officio. A lot of others moved still, but the crisscrossing of this year has never happened since we went back to multi-party politics. But for me, I think, because you can't say crisscrossing, people are moving to where there is bread. No. There are about 2 MPs who are not going to run on the ticket of NRM. And I don't think there is anything like bread and butter on the table ready. They could be simply guessing. And I don't want to trivialize politics at this point. Nonetheless, there are so many people from within the other bigger or larger political entities, let me say the FDC and DP, where people have crisscrossed from DP to FDC. But I think this is like getting money from your left-hand side pocket and putting it in the right. Because if you move from the FDC to the DP, you are still in the opposition, still fighting the same cause of taking over power, but disintegrating those other parties, especially the FDC. Because this party has been building capacity over the years. The DP has been quiet, so is the UPC, losing support in most cases. But the FDC was a formidable force to change the regime in this country. But look at how it has gotten disintegrated. 9 members of parliament leaving a party. 9 members of parliament have got a following. And I am sure they are going to move with their supporters. The others who are still quiet, who have not mentioned which party they will be running into in the next elections, I suspect they will go independent. All that means the FDC has really weakened. That leaves no party giving good challenge to the NRM. Even when you look at this opinion poll, if I can say, let me say now, the margin of error is 10%. 10% for either side. That means that the FDC will not have the 35% they got in the last elections. People Power will have taken part of their support. And People Power will also have stolen some little support from the NRM. But let me tell you, it is so easy to create a political party in Uganda right now, but to grow it is very difficult. The older parties have totally failed to push up. But the newer parties are really pulling it off with the older parties. FDC is a newer party than DP and UPC. It has more members. It has been garnering more votes than the older parties. We are now waiting for NAP. Also, NAP does not clearly have a good head. You know, there is always a brand. And I don't think Bobi Wine is a brand yet. Even younger people that I know are in the opposition don't support Bobi Wine. I'm sorry to say this. And it has shown, even in that same research that I've been reading, that upcountry younger people don't follow Bobi Wine as yet. They have a totally different perception of who Bobi Wine is. But there is these hyped up town dwellers who may follow him. Their numbers are so small. Anybody who has anything at stake, or anybody who has a future, looking towards a future, does not believe Bobi Wine can deliver that future. Every other leader I have seen, just look at the leaders that have gone to Bobi Wine's People Power or whatever it is. It will be somebody in Kampala who knows that this is a very hyped up organization or political group that will help him or will help catapult him to power, to a position of authority. I am sure even those people who have joined him know very well they are not ready to take over power. But they are getting their own personal gain in this political organization that has captured some parts of Kampala and Wakiso. That's why you do not see anybody from an up-country position or an up-country leadership position joining People Power that easily, because they will definitely lose. I want to go to Honorable Norbert Mao's trivialization and vulgarization of politics. Honorable Norbert Mao, I always love your metaphors. But today, giving an example of a hungry orphan or stepchild and relating it to the East and the North is a very bad thing coming from you, a leader. Because that is inciting the public. About 2 days ago, I watched a certain documentary. I don't know what it aimed to achieve on one of our TV stations, which showed Busoga as a political grouping that have been in power in very many positions of authority. How would you then relate their failure to improve the East or even Busoga as a region when they have the topmost positions? Because I know a lot of you think Westerners are one tribe. You get Batoro, Banyoro, Banyankole, Bachiga, Bafumbera, put them in one basket. Each of us is a different grouping. But Basoga as a tribe, look at a few people in positions of authority. They should be able to totally change the face of Busoga. We shouldn't be talking about Busoga as a place lagging behind. What are all the leaders doing? And they have been in these positions for quite a long time. I keep joking with my friends from Busoga that Busoga have eaten more than even Banyankole, who everybody thinks are in power. Because every big position of authority go to the judiciary, to the executive, even to parliament, they still hold a lot of authority. Now, do not trivialize issues and do not incite and excite people over nothing. The North, for us in the West, actually, we think Museveni has given everything to the North. It is a place where you go and every road network is good, bridges, even where there are small rivers have been built. Things in some of our places are really bad. But because of affirmative action to the North, which has gone through a lot of turmoil due to the war that Kony caused over the years, a lot of affirmative action has changed the face of northern Uganda. A lot of programs, World Bank programs, NAP, Northern Uganda Rehabilitation Program. So much money has been sunk into the North. So if you tell people that the North and the East have been sidelined, in which way? For us, we even think Museveni has become a liability to Westerners. Whatever you want to achieve, they tell you the Westerners are eating. Please go next door. And we end up getting nothing.
Honorable Margaret Muhanga there, and she takes us into the break. We need to go to the break. Then I know that you have controversially inspired Chairman Mao and Honorable Katuntu to come back for you, but that will be after. I want to be positive, but. Let's take the break, and Honorable Muhanga is still with us up to the end, joining us through Zoom all the way from Fort Portal City. Let's break now, and we will be coming back for the last segment of Behind the Headlines. Don't go away.
COVID-19 is a disease caused by the new coronavirus. Know the symptoms. They include fever, coughing, muscle pain, shortness of breath. What can you do? Wash your hands frequently with soap and water for 20 seconds or use an alcohol-based hand rub. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth with a tissue or flexed elbow. Discard tissues into a closed bin and then wash your hands. Maintain a distance of at least 1 meter between yourself and someone who is ill. Seek medical help if you display symptoms. Wear a mask if you are coughing or sneezing, or if you are caring for someone who is sick. Dispose of your masks into a closed bin and then wash your hands. Check trusted sources regularly for accurate information. Remember, the best prevention is to keep yourself healthy and follow these safe steps.
Kwa wakati huu, watu wengi wanapitia changamoto ngumu. Shule zimefungwa, ajira na maisha vimepotezwa. Fujo kwenye familia na fujo dhidi ya watoto vimeongezeka. Ni rahisi kuhisi umefadhaika, uchungu, huzuni, upweke na kuogopa yatakayotokea kesho. Tatizo la kiakili lililosababishwa na janga kubwa la COVID-19 linaweza kuchanganya watoto lisipozungumziwa. Serikali ikiwa inaweka mbinu za kupima, kutibu na kutafuta wagonjwa wa COVID-19, tunatoa wito kwa serikali kuweka huduma za afya ya akili kwa kila kituo chake cha wagonjwa. Ujumbe huu unaletwa kwenu na kituo cha AfriChild na chuo kikuu cha Makerere kwa ushirikiano na Wizara ya Jinsia, Ajira na Maendeleo ya Jamii.
Welcome back from that break, and this is Behind the Headlines, and our topic discussion is the future of multi-party politics in Uganda, and we went for the last break with that, tell it all. I don't know whether to call it testimony or in your face from the Honorable Margaret Muhanga, all the way from Fort Portal City. Our guest, Honorable Emmanuel Dumbo, who is the Director for Communication in the NRM Secretariat, and Chairman Mao, who is the DP President General. And we have our panel here, the Honorable Abdu Katuntu, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, and of course, Honorable Margaret Muhanga joining us through Zoom. This is the last segment, and I want to start with the panel. Chairman Mao and Honorable Dumbo, we have the new that we do here is we allow our panelists to ask you questions. So I'm going to ask. I'm going to start with Honorable Margaret to ask one question at Chairman Mao and one question at Dumbo, and then I come to Ramadan, and then to Honorable Katuntu, and then we shall respond to the issues that were raised before we went into the break. Honorable Margaret, start with Chairman Mao, a question, and then one to Dumbo.
Chairman Mao and my good friend, will you be running for presidency in 2021? And Honorable Dumbo, I welcome you as our spokesperson of the party, and I look forward to working with you. But I would like you to improve. What are you going to do to improve the communication strategies of NRM? Because sometimes we get information when it's more or less stale.
Good. Chairman Mao.
What are you going to do to improve that?
Chairman Mao.
That is easy. The answer is yes.
Good. Direct. Chairman, I mean Honorable Dumbo.
I think one of the challenges the party had was the reason why I was recruited and given this responsibility. And one of the reasons I'm here is basically to improve on the delivery of that message. And hopefully, over a period of time, this should definitely change. Because when the party has been around for some time and without a spokesperson, definitely a lot of message may be failing to get through. Now that we are here, we shall be communicating and we shall be comparing notes.
Are there some of the very clear challenges that you found lacking? I mean, some of the challenges that you found in the NRM that you thought need immediate addressing that you can share with us here?
The challenges that I got in NRM are broad and associated with the current structure that we have now, the problems of the COVID, which is affecting all the other parties and is preventing us from doing things like we should have loved to do them. Would have loved to have the National Delegates Conference like we used to. We can't. Would have loved to conduct rallies during the campaigns. We cannot do that. Would have loved to convene the National Executive Council meetings. We cannot do that unless we do it through a virtual system. And this has caused us to postpone the national conference, which should have been this weekend, because there are things that we had not anticipated. We hadn't modified the rules in order to conform to the virtual arrangement. We hadn't anticipated the technological and logistical requirement for us to conduct a national conference of about 15,000 people, but in a virtual nature. So these are challenges which are affecting everybody. But if they hadn't been there, we should have been on the ground and running and mobilizing for the party and mobilizing for the candidate, which unfortunately we can't do because of what is happening now.
Good. Ramadan, question to Chairman Mao, one to Dumbo.
Chairman Mao, I'll ask him a question I always, wanted to ask a politician of his stature. Chairman Mao, I know that all human beings lie a bit, but why do politicians lie a lot?
I think politicians have a clear objective to win. So, and politicians also know that you have got to influence the minds of your target audience. So sometimes the politicians may tweak the truth and twist it. For instance, if you are a leader and you have a terrorist attack, you must present a picture to the nation. You have listened to the leaders of Lebanon talking after that devastating bomb. Whether you call it lying or not, but they are saying, we are going to go to the root of this. We are going to make sure we apprehend the perpetrators. Then the other thing is that the politicians also know that the public's capacity to deal with certain information is sometimes the public is not ready at a particular time for certain pieces of information. I will tell you that sometimes the perception of the truth may actually harm the long-term interests of a society during a crisis. It's almost like breaking news of death, or a doctor knowing that a patient is going to die, but the doctor still says, please pray hard, I do not know. Those are borderline cases. Now, the blatant lying of politicians, that is clearly unethical. I don't engage in lying as a politician, as Norbert Mao. I tell people things the way it is. But those who lie do so because for them the end justifies the means. The party I lead, and probably that's why some people say we have delayed to get into power, is because for us ends and means must go together. So politicians lie because the end justifies the means, in one sentence.
Thank you. Honorable Dumbo. The NRM has been in power for nearly 35 years. What do you think in the next 5 years the NRM needs to do to ensure that the economy of Uganda works for all Ugandans?
the president of Uganda, who is also the chairman of NRM, when he came for nomination, he gave a snippet of what is going to come out in our manifesto, which is going to be the basis for seeking re-election in the coming elections. And one of the things that was emphasized was deepening modernization. And the president was very categorical when he mentioned that when you look at Uganda, a lot of modernization has taken place, but it is not equitable. And when it isn't equitable, you must begin addressing the underlying causes which are bringing that inequality. That is going to be a major focus for the NRM party to ensure that there is equitable distribution of resources and equitable distribution of the wealth that the government earns and the prosperity that has been brought within the population. When you look at the major problem right now amongst the youth, it has been unemployment. But when you look at the causes of the unemployment, it has been partially because of the nature of the education system that we have been facing. Most of us students, many of them go to school and they don't come out with any tangible skills. People come out, they have learned a lot of subjects, but when their hands, which God gave them, cannot be very productive, using them as tools. So skilling Ugandans in order to be able to use their tools, their hands, in order to get gainful employment are some of the two major things as a government that we are going to do in order to ensure that the people of Uganda get better.
Okay, Honorable Katuntu, start with Dumbo this time. And then you go to Chairman Mao.
That's bad neighborliness.
He is lobbying already.
I don't want to start with the question Ramadan asked about politicians, but I want both of them to keep that question in mind as they answer my question. Honorable Dumbo, what do you have to say to the accusation that the NRM is actually more of a state party than an ordinary political party? Keeping on Mr. Dr. Ramadan is Gobi's question to Honorable Mao in mind.
So that you're stopping him from lying.
First and foremost, the NRM is not a state party. Because first and foremost, the NRM was founded in the bush when there was a state. So, if the NRM was in the bush and there was a state, and the NRM came and overthrew a state, was it a state party at the time it was founded? Or did it become a state party when it came into governance? It is the same NRM which went to the bush, fought a state that existed then, and took power. But because there are advantages that would accrue to any leader or any party which comes into government, there are things that have been taken for granted to assume that we are taking them just because we're in government. But those things will happen to any government, whether it will be a Democratic Party or it will be a UPC government. It would have certain advantages that accrue to incumbency. For instance, many people have been arguing quite often that why would do NRM meetings, say of the Central Executive Committee, take place in the State House. But the other day you saw Trump calling the meeting of his caucus of the Republicans.
What an example.
And Trump, that's the modern democracy that we look at. So when I saw it happening in America, I started wondering, why would somebody criticize Uganda as if this is a backward thing to do? Because not only Trump was doing it, but many people have done it. Actually, the coming of Trump has demonstrated that many of the things that we have been accused as a party, that there are things that happen quite often. But to be specific, is that NRM is not a state party, but there are advantages that accrue to it just because it is the party in power. And there is nothing we can do about it.
There is nothing you can do about it. John Robert Mao, you have been honored and privileged to lead a pre-independence political party. Do you think that the party you have been honored and privileged to lead may suffer the same fate like most of the pre-independence political parties on the continent? Whether you're talking about KANU, you're talking about the Nkrumah party, and you're talking about ZANU of Zambia, UNIP of Zambia. Do you think that actually your party, much as it has never gone into power, it is certainly going to suffer the fate of most of these pre-independence political parties?
Perhaps after coming to power.
So you first come to power, then you suffer the fate. Anyway, seriously, I believe that a party has got to be adaptable. In politics, you must deal with the situation as it is. And that's why what we started with is very interesting. You must, even if you are dishonest to others about what you are, you must at least be honest to yourself. You must believe what the mirror tells you, even though if somebody says, you know, you have some morsel of food on your mustache, you say, no way, I'm impeccably clean. But when you go to the mirror, you must admit and get rid of it. DP is still standing today on account of its social base. DP was not created for a season. It was created for a reason. And as long as that reason is there, DP will always be relevant as a conscience of the nation. But the challenges threaten DP. Just like in the market, as long as you don't keep promoting yourself, why does Coca-Cola advertise and Pepsi? They are so big, they are so gigantic, you would think they shouldn't be advertising. You would think it is Kiri Soda that should be advertising and Reham. But Coca-Cola invests even more. So, to avoid suffering the fate of complacency or complacent organizations, and complacency comes when you go to power. Perhaps the fact that we haven't gone to power after independence, we were only in power before independence, is one of the reasons why we have a flickering flame which will never die. It will still be light. When I took over leadership of DP, we had 7 MPs. I was really worried whether we were going down or up. I was even surprised when we managed to double the number. And it is natural because the players in politics keep changing, just like the players in economics. I'm sure here there's nobody with a Nokia phone. If I even say Motorola, maybe the entire compound of UBC, there may be no Motorola. There may even be no Ericsson. People are going to iPhone, people are going to Techno, people are going to HTC. So, as a leader of a historical anti-colonial party, I'm not complacent at all. And that's why each time I see a new wind, I try to adjust my sail to see whether I can tap it. Because if you don't tap it, you'll end up where you don't want to go. The same wind can take various boats in many directions, depending on at what angle they tap it. So, I am sure, at least for the time that I'm holding the steering of DP, I am sure that DP is going to rebrand itself, and right now we have a great opportunity to open up the entrance to get new blood into the party, because there has also been a kind of traffic jam, because there's you talk about leadership, but there is also followership is also a problem. I heard you condemning the political parties about their leadership. What sort of follower are you in the party? If you get elected to parliament on a party platform carrying a party flag, and then the poor man who runs the headquarters now is at your mercy, and you keep telling him that you are a political failure because you lost the election, then naturally you are a bad follower. A good follower should improve the leadership through that two-way communication.
Okay.
I don't think DP will suffer the fate of UNIP or the fate of KANU and so on, because we also have the most vibrant youth organization. For NRM, your youth organization is the police and LDU. So it is a state.
Your last word, your last statement, Mao, on the future of multi-party politics in Uganda. You can pick it from, in respect of the quality that the quality of debate that now we have. Some people have suggested that under the one-party system, someone talked about it, Ramadan.
It is good that Ugandans are worried about the future of our country and whether Ugandans are benefiting anything from the system. Whether we like it or not, we are all part of the system. You see, it is normal for opposition people to say the system, but the system includes the opposition.
All of us.
Yes.
The body politic.
Yeah, that is the system.
Okay.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
So all of us must be concerned.
So we need to have responsible people. We must look for some common ground where I and Dumbo can say, this one, if it is under threat, we'll fight for it together. Like, in terms of Uganda's strategic interests, you find that Milton Obote and all the successive governments always said, Sudan must be liberated, South Sudan must not be oppressed. Milton Obote stood firm, and on that one, President Museveni never contradicted him. So, what is it in Uganda, which if it is under attack, we would all find ourselves rushing to defend it?
Okay.
Until we find that, we cannot call ourselves a country.
Good. Honorable Dumbo, your last voice on your last message on the future of multi-party politics. I think you make a comment on what is that one area that in your view you think that opposition and the ruling government should all agree on, the ruling party?
I'll concentrate more on the opposition, and it's something that that I feel
you're really missing
they must progressively address it. It started at the time of independence when Benedicto Kiwanuka was the president of DP, but he was not in parliament. And that gave two structures of leadership, where there was a leader of the opposition when the real leader of the party was outside parliament. It has happened during Vesige's time when he was on Entebbe Road, but when the real leaders of parliament were in parliament. Even right now, my friend Amuriat is at the FDC headquarters, but there has been a battle on who the leader of the opposition is. The parties must begin negotiating, so that at any particular time when the elections have been done, we have the elections where we have the presidents of the parties getting into the positions of leadership to get a forum to garner their people, but also to harmonize the voice so that we create sanity in the politics of Uganda.
Okay. Honorable Katuntu, your last word on the future of political parties, but take it from the perspective of the fear that the quality of leaders that now we are getting in political offices have a lot to worry the nation in terms of quality.
The country gets the leaders it deserves. I'm not worried about that.
So the future is good. It looks good.
This is what you deserve. The day you think you deserve better leaders, you will have better leaders. The day you think we are the leaders you deserve, you get that. So don't get worried about that. You see, the challenges are there, and it has nothing to do with the parties. It has everything to do with Uganda as a country. What is that do we glorify? What is that do we need from a leader? What you have today is what you deserve. And tomorrow, if you think you deserve better, you'll get better leaders. And that's where, you know, my colleagues who are like professors, not Ramadan, of course, who think, yes, Uganda is having bad leaders, but they think they are better where they are, then they deserve these bad leaders.
Okay. Ramadan, the future of political parties. Political parties have been blamed for, you know, having this thing of winner takes it all. And in order for winner take it all, you need to do everything to keep power or to get power. And so this week we have the situation of creating of more administrative units, more districts are coming up, more constituencies are coming up, and therefore more costs of public administration and created by government. So gerrymandering, some people call it, from that American president's term. So in terms of the future and relating it to that, you know, the bloated cost of public administration, what is the future of our politics, I mean, multi-party politics?
You know, Charles, when politics became the end in itself in Uganda, a source of livelihood, a job, and also the only vehicle through which some people could survive. The challenges we got will only be sort of the when we attend to what I mentioned. Without socio-economic transformation of Uganda, forget about transformation of politics. Politics does not work where economics has failed.
Okay.
That's why in Europe and in North America, certain categories of people were not voting up to a certain time when those societies are transformed.
But
some people think
politics that transforms.
Yeah, what I mean is actually nothing like either or, politics or economy. It's political economy.
They go together.
They go together. Without attending to the economy, politics will not work.
Which one should start us on that trajectory?
Both of them. It's a chicken and egg. Thank you.
Honorable Margaret Muhanga. Honorable Margaret Muhanga, we are closing.
Please, I am on.
I need your final message for this evening, and you're the last speaker. In terms of the future of multi-party politics in Uganda, I think it was your colleague, Honorable Katuntu, who talked about the inadequate or lack of civic knowledge of how multi-party politics should work, and hence probably lack of, you know, knowledge on who to vote, how to vote. You know, even now it has just talked about the country getting the leaders that it deserves, meaning that our people have the best that they can get, and yet some of you complain about the quality of leaders that we are now getting. So make it from that point your final comment. In 1 minute.
I think the Honorable Katuntu is right, but I think we forget one of the most fundamental issues in this case. That a long time, there were few people who would offer themselves for positions of the political positions. There were fewer people. Not that there weren't many enlightened people, but politics was considered a service. Indeed, now it is considered a job. And I can imagine it's not because of the electorate, I would say, but it is because of this explosion of numbers. In Uganda, we do not have what we call population growth. We have got explosion of numbers. The population growth is too fast. The economy is growing well, but it cannot meet the needs of the population because the population is growing very fast. That's why you find that in Parliament there will be the cream de la cream, good professors, good lawyers like Abdul Katundu. But also you'll have people who are anything. There is totally nothing you can credit them to. And that's why the other week when we hosted Rebecca Kadaga, she was saying there are people who want to speak on rotten eggs, they want to speak on education, they want to speak on malnutrition, they want to speak on health, everything. It's because they have not put themselves into one line of thinking, that this is my niche.
This is my
area. And so they take everything, blanket. Whether they have information about it or not, they simply speak about everything. Now, this future of multi-party politics in Uganda is bleak, especially parties in the opposition. I will speak like Emmanuel Dumbo. Because once you are not in power and you are bickering, you make even matters worse for yourself or for yourselves. Imagine people have been moving around those parties, the opposition parties. Some people have left for NAP, others have left DP for FDC, others have left FDC for DP. You are just moving in the same circle. And unless you build a coalition of good characters who are not about to cross to any other path, and make sure this party is built with an intention of taking over power, which is the most important thing that people come together for in the opposition. But others are leaving because they think this party may not catapult them into a position of power. The others are leaving because they think the power is dead. Others are leaving because of internal bickering. We are really in a crisis as opposition, not NRM. NRM, we are consolidating.
As multi-party, including NRM.
As multi-party, of course, we are all in the same boat. We are all multi-party. If you hear two members of parliament of NRM have also left, then that shows all the parties are dancing on top of a needle. They're not stable.
Thank you so much.
We need stability.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So they may all sing, but at a different rate.
Thank you so much, Honorable Margaret Muhanga, all the way from Port Portal City.
Parties are not right.
Thank you so much, Chairman Mao, and we are privileged that you honored our invitation to come and join us. Thank you so much.
From Nakaseke.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ramadan Gobi, for always being here. Thank you so much, Honorable Emmanuel Dumbo. By the way, we did ask you, yes or no, are you going back to Butaleja to stand?
I'm a party bureaucrat now.
Yes or no?
No.
Good. But we are glad that you came and honored our invitation as well. We wish you all the best.
Thank you. Are you going to ask Honorable Katundu the same question?
And Honorable Katundu, Chairman Mao would have wanted to ask you. Now let me ask you. Are you going back? Have you made up your mind now? Are you going back to Bugweri?
The same answer I had last week.
You are not yet ready?
I'm not yet.
The people are calling you.
Thank you so much to you out there who sits up to this late to watch this program Behind the Headlines. Keep it here until next Wednesday, 10 p.m. And if you want a repeat, by the way, of this show, it's going to start tomorrow, Thursday, we will be having a repeat of this show for the 2 hours from 1:30 p.m. So if you missed this, you can watch the repeat tomorrow. And keep it UBC, keep it behind the headlines. Until next Wednesday, God bless you all. Bye-bye.
The Electoral Commission